DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve, it is MIA. You have yet to achieve that success despite all your hard work. And on top of all this, we're not done. I'm going to give you a huge dose of personal initiative. What that is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, especially yourself, as a matter of fact, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then what we do is we put all this together into one philosophy, one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one way of living, one approach, one brand, one master class. It is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. In today's topic, we are actually starting the first of a three-part series that are the top. I'm going to be discussing the top 15 in-demand soft skills. This is for life, this is for career, this is for your interpersonal relationship. This is just for you getting along, working on your game, and actually leveraging your game, utilizing your game out there in the open market that we call the world. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. All of these skills will help you move forward no matter what you choose to do as a career. Now, I actually found these when I was actually working on something else, and I just started looking up the subject of soft skills, and I found this list, and I said, you know what, this is a great list to share with this audience here at Work on Your Game. So that's how we came about this subject. But I was looking at the site called livecareer.com, and here's the quote. I'm going to be reading a quote straight from their website talking about the value of soft skills. In case you don't know what they are, I'm going to introduce them here so that you understand the framework that we're using here to talk about this topic. Quote, soft skills are personal attribute-driven general skills such as the ability to give and receive feedback, work collaboratively, and manage time. They are usually self-developed as opposed to hard skills, which you can typically acquire at school or on the job, and they'll help you in a wide range of jobs, not just the target job that you are applying for, close quote. So I actually used the list, even though I got that quote from livecareer.com. I'm actually using the list coming from a website called ionos.com, ionos.com, as their list was actually better than Live Career's list. So what I'm going to do here over the next today, tomorrow, and the next day, I'm going to note what each soft skill is. I'm going to name it. I'm going to read the description that Ionos gave for that soft skill. Then I'm going to give my explanation to that soft skill. I'm going to give you some related episodes that you need to check out related to that very soft skill that I'm talking about, and some other things. So we're going to make this into did I say a 3-part series? I meant a 5-part series, not a 3-part series. 5-part series. We're going to be talking about the soft skills that you're going to need moving forward in life. And these skills get broken down into 3 specific categories. There are personal skills, social skills, and methodical skills. Now, something really important that I want you to take from just the description that I gave you from livecareer.com, that they said soft skills, these are personal attribute-driven skills, meaning these are things that you just have as a person. You can develop these skills, but understand that these skills are self-developed. These are not the kind of skills that you get from going to college. These are not the kind of skills you get you could get them from taking a course or reading a book, depending on what course and what book you're reading, or you take courses and books from Work on Your Game. You will develop these soft skills, as we talk about these every single day. But they are self-developed skills. They are not hard skills. So this is not the kind of thing you get at trade school or something like that. And these skills will help you in a wide range of areas, meaning you could develop a certain soft skill for during working at one job, but that same skill will translate and apply over to other things. And if you know the person that you're listening to right now, you understand. I came from the sports world, but I took the soft skills that you need in sports: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, personal initiative. You don't get those from going to school. You don't get those from on-the-job training. Those are skills that you develop on your own. You develop those things. And because I developed them, I was able to translate those skills or leave the sports world, but still keep my soft skills with me and take them over with me to the business world. And now right here in I guess we can call this the teaching world or the thought leadership world, where I'm showing other people how to develop these exact same soft skills. So I am a living, breathing example of this. And if you listen to this show, every single day I open the show by telling you about 4, these are soft skills. And they're called soft skills, again, because there are things that you can't hold these in your hand, but they are real things, and we all understand their value once we get to use them. And you probably will understand their value when you lack them at the same time. And if you ever lacked confidence or mental toughness, you understood how valuable they were when you didn't have them. Did you not? all that said, so let's get into again, this is coming from ionos.com if you want to check out their site and see the list for yourself. But I'm going to go over all of these. And again, there's a total of, how many do we have here? I think we got 17, 21 soft skills we're going to be going over the next 5 days. I'm going to do about 4 or 5 each day. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. Again, these are the top in-demand soft skills. I think I said the top 15 in-demand soft skills, what I had as a title, or I announced as a title, but it will be the top 21 parts 1 through 5. Now let's get to it. The first group are the personal skills. When we get to the next set, I'll tell you that we're getting to the next set. But today and tomorrow will be all the personal skills. Number 1, top soft skills, resilience. Now I'm reading the definition from Ionos' website about resilience, then I'll talk about it. So from Ionos, quote, "You work a lot, but rarely find it overwhelming. In times of increased expectations, you manage to fulfill requirements without suffering from a subsequent drop in performance. You face unforeseen events and developments with determination and have a high stress tolerance." That is in bold, high stress tolerance. This also makes you a role model for less resilient colleagues. Every employer appreciates reliable employees who can withstand turbulent times. All right, now I'm out of the description, close quote. Now this one is resilience really relates to the subject of mental toughness, which I talk about all the time. I wrote a book on mental toughness. I call it the Mental Handbook. And I talk about mental toughness in damn near everything that I put out. I talk about mental toughness. I did a chapter on mental toughness in my book, Work on Your Game, which you can get at workonyourgamebook.com. And often people use phrases like resilience, perseverance, grit, mental toughness. They use them interchangeably. This description that I just gave you could apply to any one of those 4 phrases that we use all the time. The biggest thing that I want to point out here is what was in bold that I repeated there. High stress tolerance. How much challenge can you deal with? How much of things not going your way can you deal with before you start to fall apart? What is your IQ? I heard a businessman pose this question on a stage years ago, probably 20 years ago. He said to the audience, "What is your IQ does not mean your intelligence quotient, how smart you are. Your IQ stands for I quit." How much shit needs to occur in your life or your business or a situation for you to throw in the towel and stop trying? How much stress can you handle? In episode number 1691, I gave you 3 keys for eliminating stress and anxiety. In episode number 1450, I told you how to remain positive and calm when everyone around you is anxious and stressed out. In episode number 1348, we talked about the concept of the eustress, which is the positive kind of stress that you actually create on purpose in order to build your mental toughness and expand your comfort zone. And episode number 718, I talked about how stress can be a sign of weakness when it's the wrong kind of stress and you're allowing that stress to break you down and send you in the wrong direction. And also episode 351, we talked about stress testing, putting yourself in stressful situations to find out what you're actually made of at this point, to see where your weaknesses are and where you need to get better. This all goes under the concept of resilience. And understand that if any of you watched the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary, Michael Jordan / Chicago Bulls documentary in the spring of 2020, about a year ago from now. And one of the main things Michael's teammates always said about Michael Jordan was that his presence is what gave confidence to everybody else. This is the exact thing that Ionos is talking about right here. Dealing with unforeseen events and developments, and you are a role model for less resilient colleagues. So did anybody on the Chicago Bulls have Michael Jordan's resume? Of course not. Did anybody on the Bulls have Michael Jordan's talent or accomplishments? Or did any of them have the right to have the swagger that Michael Jordan had? Absolutely not. But whenever you hear from any of Jordan's teammates from back then, they all say the same thing. Michael provided the confidence. Michael provided the toughness. Because he had so much, everybody else was able to be confident. Michael had resilience times a million. And because he had resilience times a million, all of his teammates were able to be resilient because they knew if anything went wrong, if anything went left, they always knew number 23 was going to handle things in the end. And that's exactly what happened. And every employer, this is what Iono says, every boss appreciates reliable employees who can withstand turbulent times. Any of you who's ever, I can't even say it that way, but any of you who ever has been in a position of hiring, let's say this, you're in a position of hiring someone, whether you're the owner of the company or maybe you're a manager, you're working in HR, one of the main things you look for, of course, you look for skill. You look for someone who has a solid background, a resume, and maybe they have experience doing the job you're hiring them for. But you also want to know how well this person works under pressure. How well is this person going to work when the job is not as easy as it sounded on the application? How is this person going to deal with things not going according to the employee documentary handbook, and they had to think on their feet and kind of figure out what to do right there on the spot? How is that person going to respond? A lot of times we don't know how that person's going to respond until they get thrown into the fire. There's a guy I know, one of my friends down here in South Florida, his name is Shota. He's a boxing trainer. And one of the things that he tells me whenever we're talking about boxing, he's very enthusiastic about boxing. One of the things that he says is the same way that you would know like a dog, any of you who's ever knows anything about dog training, like canine training for police dogs, that they can tell when the cops are training the police dogs, they can tell which dogs have the internal makeup to be police dogs and which ones don't. They can tell from a very, very young age if this dog even has the makeup to do it. And there's some kind of test that they do, like they surprise the dog or do something that puts the dog in what would maybe be a stressful situation, and they see how the dog responds. And if the dog responds a certain way, they say, okay, this dog can move on in the training. And if the dog responds a different way, they're like, all right, this dog can't move on. And one of the things that I heard Shota, the boxing trainer, he says, when you put somebody in that ring, the first time they get hit in the face, or the first time they realize that they're in the ring with a fighter who can probably fuck them up, you find out whether this person has what it takes to become a boxer or not, based on the way that they're responding to that stressful situation. And it's the same thing for all of us. Michael Jordan used to say this. He said this in many of his books. And I've read every Michael Jordan book, not just the ones written about him, but the ones written by him. And one of the things that he said in one of his early books was that, a lot of times players will say to me, Michael Jordan speaking, they'll say, yeah, I'm going to play better next game. Yeah, I'm going to play better. And then they get in that next game, they miss their first 2 or 3 shots, and you can see it in their face that they've lost all their confidence. And that was Michael's way of knowing, all right, this guy doesn't quite have the resilience that I have as Michael Jordan, so I'm going to have to provide a little bit to him because otherwise we're not going to win. So it's just reading that resilience in other people, and that matters a lot in the work world, especially when you're working with other people. You want to know how resilient the people around you are. Even in relationships, you want to know this because nobody's life is perfect. I don't know anyone who's listening to this, at least those that I've heard from. I don't know anybody whose life has gone perfectly. So you want resilient people around you, so when things do go left, and they will go left, everybody's not jumping overboard. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, we are talking about the top 21 in-demand soft skills, just in life, period, in the work world, but also just in life. Number 2 is responsibility. This is a big one right here. Now I'm reading from Ionos. Quote, you can work well independently and assess the consequences of your actions correctly, as well as accept them and use them for further development. People with personal responsibility stand up for what they do. They are mature and self-determined, but also solidary. Personal responsibility does not rule out taking responsibility for others. As a self-reliant person, you master the challenges of everyday life on your own. This includes standing by your own mistakes, being liable for any damages that may have arisen, and remedying them independently. Close quote. Boy, there's a lot in there right there. Man, responsibility. So what I'm reading here from Ionos, I should have said this at the beginning, is they are writing out the positive traits of someone who has the skill of responsibility. That's the way that they're laying this out. The very first sentence here in the description of responsibility that a lot of people could benefit from. You work well independently, meaning you figure things out on your own. You can assess the consequences of your actions and accept those consequences and use them for further development. In other words, when you mess up, because you will mess up because you're human and nobody is perfect, you accept the fact that you made mistakes. You accept the consequences of those mistakes, but you don't allow them to beat you down. You don't allow the failures of your past, whether your past was 30 minutes ago or 10 years ago, you don't allow the failures of your past to hold you back from your current and future success. You look at them and say, okay, now I know how this goes. Now I know what I can do moving forward. I'll give you an example. Just today, before I started recording, I heated up some pizza. I had like 3 slices of pizza from a pizza that I bought yesterday. And I noticed when I was looking up, because I tried to heat up pizza in the toaster oven before, but the pizza was too soft. Like the crust gets all soft, and I didn't like that. I like the crust to be a good amount of crispy. So I read on Google that if you take the tray in the toaster oven and you move it up to higher in the toaster oven, so it's closer to the flames, whatever they call them, the heating lights, whatever they are inside the toaster oven, that the pizza will be crispier. So this is what I did. I took the tray and I moved it to higher up in the toaster oven. So then I put my pizza in there, and then what happened is all the crust got all burnt up. Now I like the crust. That's one of my favorite parts of the pizza is eating the crust when it's nice and crispy. I'm talking about the crust at the end, not just the crust on the bottom. But the crust got so burnt that I couldn't even eat the crust. But when I pulled the pizza out, I said, okay, well, at least now I know that moving the thing up does work. And now I just got to pay a little bit more attention to what the temperature is and how much time I put it on. But I realized that this does work. Now I just made a mistake in the process of doing it. Albert Einstein, when he was, or was it Thomas Edison? I think it was Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison was developing the incandescent light bulb. He had, according to legend, 10,000 failures trying to develop the light bulb. And someone said to him, well, Mr. Edison, how does it feel to have failed 10,000 times to try to develop the light bulb? And Thomas Edison said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. What I did was find 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. And you may consider that to be mere semantics, and maybe it is semantics, but guess what? I did a whole episode on semantics back in episode number 1409. The concept of semantics matters a lot. It's the wording that you use, the way that you describe things, the language that you use to describe things, colors the way that you think about it, the way you see it, and in the future, what actions you will take or what you won't take. So responsibility is you understanding that there are consequences to your actions, understanding that you may have screwed up or messed up at some point, but you take responsibility. You stand up for what you do. You take ownership of your actions. You don't compare or you don't say, well, yeah, I did this, but this person did that. No, that's not taking responsibility. If you're putting a but in there, then you're negating everything that you said before that. A responsible person is, and these are in bold here in this description from Ionos, mature and self-determined. I don't know if you remember the episode that I did on self-determinism, which was back in episode number, I talked about self-determinism a couple times, but episode 1259. Your measure of personal power is self-determinism, which is a very simple concept of you deciding, you determining, this is what I'm going to do with my life, this is how I'm going to make, this is the outcome that I'm going to achieve, and then you taking responsibility for making that outcome happen. Now, are you able to just abracadabra make things happen in your life just because you decided that things are going to happen that way? No and yes. No, you can't always control outcomes in life. Of course, you can't control other people or the weather or basically anything other than yourself. But when you have a high level of self-determinism, often, and if you know anyone who fits this description or if you are this person who fits this description, usually you end up getting a lot of things that you want in life. You notice that? It seems kind of weird, right? But it's not weird if you're a person who has lived like this. Personal responsibility does not rule out taking responsibility for others. We just talked about in the previous point, Michael Jordan and that Last Dance documentary. Michael Jordan said in one of his books, and I think Tim Grover, his trainer, said it in his book, Relentless. He talked about how Michael would assess every game. He would just look around at his teammates because he knew not all his teammates were as reliable as he was, to be as consistent as Michael was. He would see which teammates showed up tonight mentally all the way, which teammate did not show up tonight. And Michael made his adjustments based on how many of his teammates he could depend on that night and how much he could depend on each one. And he would take responsibility for still making sure the Bulls won the game, even if all his teammates didn't show up. Now, you look around in the sports world these days, look around in the business world, look around just in everyday life these days. How many times do you see people, when they feel like the people around them or whoever is not pulling their weight, that person, so person A looks around, sees person B, C, and D, they're not pulling their weight. So what does person A do? They quit. Person A doesn't want to show up anymore. Person A doesn't want to work hard anymore. Person A doesn't want to own the situation, even though they're not responsible directly for people's B, C, and D. But the A, B, C, and D are all on the same team, but person A wants to quit because B, C, and D are not good enough. I mean, look around in pro sports. How often do you see athletes, especially in the NBA? Nowadays, you got players just quitting. They don't want to play anymore on a certain team. They don't think the team's good enough. Well, I mean, you on the team. How bad can this team be? If you want to quit, now you want to get traded to another team, you don't want to play anymore because you don't think the team is good enough. Well, I mean, you're on the team. So if the team's not that good, what does that say about you? But this is becoming a normal thing these days. So how much personal responsibility are you taking, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you when you are in the same group? Another thing about responsibility, this includes standing by your own mistakes. When you mess up, owning that mistake. Not acting like it didn't happen. not just brushing over it as if no, it's not a big deal, not putting the blame on somebody else and saying, well, this person did this thing and that person did that thing, as if to absolve yourself of your own responsibility. Be liable for any mistakes that you make and remedy those mistakes on your own. That is part of responsibility, owning everything from the start into the finish. Now, I'm going to give you some episodes where I've talked about responsibility here on the show. Episode 1071, the privilege of responsibility. Responsibility is not a right, it is a privilege. Episode 603, you must be responsible for you, as we just talked about. Episode 359, you have a gift and a responsibility. And episode 1658, the benefits and responsibilities of ownership. And episode 1593, where we talked about your responsibilities as a CEO, and every one of us is a CEO of our own lives. If you want to be a person in control in your own life or anywhere else, you must accept responsibility. Responsibility is your ability to respond. If you want power, you must have the ability to respond. If you don't have responsibility, if you don't accept responsibility, you do not take initiative for responsibility, it is impossible for you to have power. So if you want power in life, you must have responsibility. They are a package deal. Point number 3. Topic once again today, we are talking the top 21 in-demand soft skills in all of life. Number 3, commitment. Commitment being the third, let me make sure I'm looking at the right list. Yes, commitment being the third key soft skill moving forward. Commitment is described as, by Ionos, you are ready to leave your comfort zone, tackle new challenges, and use your skills for purposes that you don't necessarily profit from directly. Dedicated people invest time and energy in helping others, for example, by working on social projects. At work, commitment means not just doing your job, but giving more than what is expected. Committed employees often have a positive effect on the entire work environment. This is one of the soft skills that can help you advance your career. Close quote. Now, commitment, this is a huge one. The reason why this one is so huge, especially in the work world, is that the worst thing that anyone wants as an employer, as a boss, as a manager, as an owner, are people who are, you don't want mercenaries on your team. What is a mercenary? That's a person who's only there for the money. They're only there for the ride. They're only there because of what they can get. They're not really committed to the team. They're not committed to the cause. They're not committed to the long run. They're just there for as long as they need to be there to collect a couple checks. They check in when they're supposed to be at work and they clock out as soon as it's quitting time and they're done. They have no commitment to what they're doing. And you may need to grab a mercenary every now and then for your work, but in the long run, I can tell you as an employer myself, as an owner myself, I don't like having mercenaries on my team. I want people who are committed. I want people who are bought into the cause, bought into the vision, and of course it's about the money because we all got to eat, but it's about more than the money. And that's what commitment is really about. And if you're not committed to anything, if you're not committed to the thing that you're doing, rather, you will never leave your comfort zone. You will not take on more challenges. You will never do more than what is expected of you. And you only do things when you get something, when you have something that you can gain from it. And any of you ever been around a person who's like that? You know when you're around somebody like that. In the sports world, a non-committed teammate is the kind of teammate that only does things that gets shine for themselves. If they can get some attention for doing it, they get some shine, they can get some burn, they can get some media, they can get an Instagram pic, they can get some likes or some comments, they'll do it. But anything that's selfless, that gets more attention to someone else than it goes to them, they're not willing to do that. Those kind of teammates in the sports world, we call those people cancers. And you know what you need to do with cancer? Or you need to cut it off and get rid of it. Get it out of the system immediately. We don't want non-committed individuals. Because people who are committed, you know what they'll do? They'll give time, energy, and attention to helping other people, not just to help themselves, but just to help them. Why? Because they're committed to the goal. They're committed to the cause. In the work world, or anywhere in life, actually, when you're committed to something, you get more than what's expected. You know, a good example of people who can be at work and they're really committed are people who do any kind of like charity type of work. People who do charity work, who make all those phone calls, they're making cold calls and just beating up the phones, just trying to get donations, whether it's for a political campaign, whether they're trying to save some children, whether they're trying to get clean water for some people, whether they're trying to find a cure for cancer, whatever they're trying to get a donation for. Those people who work for charities and often not-for-profit organizations they're not doing it because they make more and more money the more donations they get. They do it because they're committed to the cause, whatever that cause happens to be. So if you want to see some committed people at work, go find some people who work at a charity because they have to be committed because they're not doing it for the money. All right, if they want to do something for money, there's a lot of other things they could be doing besides charitable work. They give more than what's expected. These are the type of people who show up early and stay late. These are kind of people that the boss has to kick you out of the office. You can't come to the office. You can't come to the gym. These are the players who are coming to the gym early and you're staying at the gym late, giving more than what is expected of them. Committed people often have a positive effect on the entire environment, on everyone around them. Why? Because they're so committed, everyone else around them sees that and they're like, damn, maybe I need to step my game up. Maybe I need to show up a little bit earlier. Maybe I need to work a little bit harder than I've been working. Maybe I'm not giving as much as I could be given up to this point. I thought I was giving a lot, but maybe I'm not giving as much as I thought I was. That is what commitment looks like. My question to you is, as you're listening to this right now, how committed are you to what you're doing? How much of a commitment have you made to what you're doing? And if someone was to come watch you at work right now, how committed are you really? I mean, I know it sounds good to be committed, but how committed are you really to what you're doing based on your actions, not based on your words? Episodes for this. Episode 1422, how to commit like a pig. And yes, I make sense of that one. How to commit like a pig. And episode number 318, the 90-10 rule. You commit first, then they follow. In other words, you got to give 90% of the commitment before you get anybody else to buy into what you are doing. It doesn't just happen just because you said something. So listen to those episodes on commitment as we move on to point number 4. Is that number 4? Yes, number 4. Today's topic, once again, the top 21 in-demand soft skills in life. Number 4 is motivation. The number 4 in-demand soft skill, motivation. Now, I got a book called The Mirror of Motivation, which you can get at mirrorofmotivation.com. So if you don't have it, you should go get it because, as you just learned, is one of the most in-demand soft skills. Reading from Ionos' website, quote, when you are motivated, that's me, quote, you are willing and striving to achieve certain goals and perform tasks well. Motivation is your inner drive, which makes you a reliable and satisfied worker. However, for this to work for you, you have to enjoy what you do because real motivation comes from within. Many people motivate themselves by setting themselves a realistic goal and promising themselves a reward at the end. Sometimes being appreciated by colleagues and superiors, financial security, or a quiet evening after work is enough. Everyone motivates themselves differently, and it is just important that you establish your own motivation factors. Close quote. Motivation is a big one. I'm going to say that after each one of these. All of these are a big one. Motivation, first of all, my book is called The Mirror of Motivation for the very reason that I can't motivate you. I mean, I could motivate you, but I don't want to motivate you. I choose not to motivate. I am declining to motivate you. Why? Because I tell people all the time, professionals don't need motivation. Motivation is for amateurs. So if you need motivation, if you're going on YouTube and looking up some hype up video to get yourself motivated, you are an amateur. And it's okay to be an amateur because we all got to start somewhere. But if you plan on being a pro, you want to get paid for what you do, you want to be dependent on and relied on, be able to set your own price, to go from accepting to negotiating to demanding when it comes to getting your money, you better learn how to motivate yourself. You better find that motivation in the mirror. Why? Because that's what the pros do. Why? Because you can't expect external motivation to happen to you every single day. In what Iono says here about motivation, they say you are striving to achieve certain goals and perform tasks well. So you know the thing about being a professional, everybody? You do a great job at what you do because that's what a professional does. That's the reason why you do a great job. You don't do a great job because you're getting paid. You don't do a great job because people are watching you. You don't do a great job so that you don't get fired. You do a great job because you signed up to do a great job from the very fact that you accepted a check for doing the work. That's the reason why you do a great job. That's it. You don't need any more reason. If you need any more reason than that, you are an amateur. Professionals achieve goals and do well because that is the definition of being one. Motivation is the inner drive. It is coming from inside of you. This is not something that you get from some motivational speaker or some keynote speech or some podcast episode or some tweet that you saved or some Instagram post that got you inspired. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. I publish those things, but understand if you're still looking around for motivation, you're doing the wrong thing. You're playing the wrong game. Your real motivation has to come from inside of you. Because again, the video that hyped you up 2 weeks ago might not work anymore if you watch it every day for 2 weeks. Eventually it doesn't have the same effect, or you know everything they're going to say. Many people, as it says here, Ionos, they set realistic goals, whatever you consider to be realistic, your choice, and then you give yourself a reward for reaching it. That is how you can motivate yourself. Sometimes some people just like to be appreciated. That's their motivation. That's their payment. Some people like to make a lot of money. Some people want to get a lot of attention. Some people want to just be able to sit down and look at themselves in the mirror and say, I did this great thing. I achieved this outcome. We all have different things that motivate us. It is your job, who's listening to me right now, your job to know what motivates you, what gets you excited, what activates you, what do you really care about? What really lights your fire on the inside? Now, again, you got the things that you tell everybody motivate you, but what really motivates you? And this is not for you to say out loud for anybody else. This is for you to answer to yourself. What really motivates you? What really gets you excited? What really drives you to do what you do and be who you want to be? And usually, just to help you out with this, when you find your true motivation, it is usually emotional. It is not something tangible. It's not some hard thing. It's an emotional thing. So if you're saying your motivation is you want to make a lot of money, or you want to become a partner at your law firm, or you want to move up to this level, or you want to score 30 points in a game, or you want to have big muscles, or you want to get a blue check so you're verified on social media, those things are cool. Maybe those things you do want, but those are surface level motivations. Those are the things you're comfortable telling anybody. I want to know, not I want to know, you want to know, what is the motivation that you wouldn't tell anybody? What's the motivation you don't really talk about? Those are the emotional motivations. Those are the ones that you really want to get to the bottom of. So when you ask yourself, why do you do the thing that you do, and you answer, usually your initial answers, the ones that come immediately, are going to be the surface level things. I want to make this much money. I want to do this thing. I want to beat these people who didn't believe in me. All those things are surface level. Those are the things you would tell an audience of 10,000 people. The ones you wouldn't say to anybody, the emotional ones, you get to those by asking yourself, well, why does that matter? So you ask yourself, or somebody asks, all right, why do you work here? Well, I want to make a lot of money. All right, why does that matter? So that I can take care of myself financially. Why does that matter? So I can get myself a house and a car and take care of my family. Why does that matter? Because I want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. Why does that matter? Because I'm the person who's in charge and everybody's looking to me to be responsible. Why does that matter? Because I'm a woman, or I'm a man, and I believe that's what I'm supposed to do. Why does that matter? Because then I will feel like I am fulfilling my destiny and really living up to my potential and my responsibility. Why does that matter? Because that's the thing that I feel like is missing in my life, and that's what really matters. Now we're starting to get to the emotion. See, you might have to ask yourself the question 4 or 5 times before you really get to it. That's where the real motivation comes from. So if your motivation is some surface level shit that you've been saying, or something that you posted on your Facebook, you need to go deeper. You need to go a few levels deeper. All right, that's the amateur level motivation. You need to get to professional level motivation, and understand something. Professional level motivation is not stuff that you post on social media. It's the stuff that you know when you're looking in the mirror. That's the thing that's really driving you, that you would never talk about. But that's where all the value's at. You need to get to that so you know who you are, you know what you're doing, and you know why you are doing it. Most important thing. All that said, everybody, this is going to wrap up part 1. Again, this is a 5-part series. We're going to talk about the most important soft skills that are in demand right now in life. We're still on a personal skills level. Again, I'm getting this from ionos.com, and I'll give you the 4 ones we went over today. Resilience. Number 2, responsibility. Number 3, commitment. And number 4, motivation. Tomorrow we will go into part 2 of a 5-part series. Most in-demand soft skills. Personally developed attributes that you cannot hold in your hand, but matter a ton for your success in life. Tomorrow, right here on this show. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but I should have. I'll tell you right now. I have a text line where I want you to send me a text and tell me the most valuable thing that you got from today's episode. Anything that was a light bulb that went off in your head. Anything that maybe you heard about before, but maybe you just thought about it differently because you heard it in a different way here today. I want to know about that. Reach out to me today and let me know. And I forgot to tell you some episodes on motivation. Let me tell you my text number first. My number is 305-384-6894. Once again, 305-384-6894. And I want to give you some of these episodes that I talked about motivation that I should have gave you on that 4th point. Episode 903, how to be your own motivation. This episode right here, this is professionalism. Being your own motivation. Episode number 876, motivation is only for the motivated. Now, you don't actually get motivated. If you're not motivated, you probably shouldn't be doing the thing that you're doing. Episode number 655, what to do when you're not motivated. All right, you don't have motivation, what should you do? Listen to episode number 655. Episode number 619, and this title is exactly what I just told you. Professionals don't need motivation. Episode number 582, Being motivated does not require fun, joy, or happiness. Yes, you heard that correctly. Let me say it again. Episode 582, being motivated does not require fun, joy, or happiness. Episode 481, how to motivate yourself and not stay satisfied. Episode 475, motivational bullshit exposed, volume 1. Episode number 443, Dre, how do you stay happy, excited, and motivated? I answered the question talking about myself in episode 443. Episode 399, motivate yourself using the superhero effect. Episode 78, how to use your pain as motivation. So make sure you check all those episodes. Again, send me a text. Most valuable insight you got from today's episode, 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.